Whenever. Are we okay to
Okay, we can go now. Thank you, Chairman. Over to you.
Right. Thank you very much, everyone. Welcome to Nelson Area Committee meeting tonight. First of all, can I have apologies, please? Do we know if anybody sent any apologies in?
I've not received any, Chairman.
Right. Okay. Okay.
Do you want me to go through to say who's in the meeting?
Yeah, that'll be better, please, Jane.
Okay. I've got Councillor Adam, Councillor Ahmed, Councillor Ali, Councillor Amma, Councillor Ansar, Councillor Aslam, Councillor Henderson, Councillor Iqbal, Councillor Saqib, Councillor Yvonne Tennant. We've got Nick Emery, who's a co-optee, and officers are Julie Whittaker and Alex Cameron.
Right.
Well, I could see Sheila Wicks as well, Jane.
Yeah, Jane, I'm here.
Oh, yeah,
too.
Sheila. Sorry, Sheila.
You've missed me off.
How many?
I'm here as well, Jane.
Sorry, Jane.
Oh, Councillor
How many
Mahmood.
Hi, Jane. Councillor Tommy Kearney is here as well.
Thank you.
Neil McGowan I can see as well, Jane.
Right, thank you.
Who's missing, if I may ask? Jane?
The only person missing is Councillor Shaw.
Right. Okay, that's fine. There's somebody waiting to join. I don't know who that would be. Right, we'll carry on. Right, first item on the agenda we've got is declaration of interest. Any member of the committee would like to declare any interest in the agenda items in front of us? I'll take that as no.
Mr. Chairman, I don't think
Yes,
I need to, but I'll just cover my own back. Just the former fun fair site, because I live quite close to it. But I haven't got a financial interest, so I don't think I need to leave the meeting.
No.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that. Second item on the agenda, public question time. Jane, do we have anybody eager to ask us any question?
No, with no members of the public attending today.
Right, that's fine. Thank you for that. Minutes after the last meeting.
Move them, Mr. Chairman.
Second that.
Right. Everyone happy with that? Right, I'll take that as yes. Thank you, everyone. Item 4, progress report.
Note it, Mr. Chairman.
Noted. Let me just get to it as well. Everyone is happy with that course of action? Noted. All right. Thank you. Item 5 is the police issues. But I believe we do not have anybody from the police, do we, Jane?
Sorry, Jane, you were muted then.
Sorry, I did invite them, but I've not had a response back to say if they were coming or not. So I'll see if we can get them to the next meeting.
That's fine. Thank you, Jane. Item 6, planning applications. And first application we've got in front of us is it's a major actually for erection of 3-story office building space, multi-story car park, communication mast, and 2.4 meter boundary security fence on land used for fairground on Car Road, Nelson. Open to you, councillors. Anybody? Councillor Iqbal, I see waving his hand.
Thanks a lot, Mr. Chairman. And can I first of all thank all those colleagues on this area committee who have supported in what I think is a coup for Nelson. We've been at this for the last 3 or 4 years in terms of talking to the police, the constabulary, in terms of having some detailed discussions with them about moving to this particular site. And as you're aware, Mr. Chairman, because you were key to that support, we were competing with other towns across East Lancashire So I'm really pleased that this planning application is here this evening before colleagues. There are some details to still iron out in terms of some of the issues highlighted in both this report and also the updated report. But in terms of the actual principle, Chairman, I'm delighted to support this application. Would urge all members to support the application in terms of delegating grant consent to the planning manager, subject to the issues that are outstanding. Because as the report says, Mr. Chairman, that this briefing base will accommodate roughly 177 employees, of which there's 107 operational staff and 70 admin staff. Significant amount of employment to hopefully to be created within Nelson. There are ongoing discussions with the police around police presence within the town centre, because the report says that Nelson Police Station would ultimately close. I mean, one could argue that is it actually open these days? But as part of the wider town centre plan, I think that's something that we can deal with in terms of police footprint in the town centre, not necessarily currently where it is. But Chairman, I would once again thank all those colleagues that have supported me in our endeavours, and hopefully we can get a unanimous decision tonight. So I'd like to move the application as set out.
Thank you very much for that, Councillor Iqbal. Can I ask Alex to come in first before anybody else?
Just one additional update for you, Chair, that we have received a response this evening from the Lead Local Flood Authority, who have no objection to the development, subject to a revision to the flood risk assessment. So that's resolved the issue with the Lead Local Flood Authority, subject to that. So there are still other outstanding matters to be resolved, but that one has been.
Right, okay. Jane, I know somebody else has raised the hand, but I can't see who actually.
Yeah, it's me, Nicholas. I just wanted to know, according to the documents, there's not going to be any cells built into this new building. And I wondered, is this an oversight, or, I mean, they might not need them today, but I'm told by friends who are in the police force that anyone that has to be locked up has to be taken to Blackburn now, because Burnley's cells have closed. Nelson closed a long while ago, and Colne don't have any anymore. So why aren't there being some cells built if they're going to the trouble of building a 6-storey, multi-storey car park? And I'm sure money's not coming into it, so surely it's prudent to have some, even if they're not going to use them at this early stage.
Alex? Councillor Iqbal?
I don't know whether Alex can help with that. I mean, I had some discussions early doors. I don't know whether Alex has got something up to date.
Ultimately, it's an operational matter for the police. It's not something that's relevant to the planning application.
Yeah, I can understand that, but there is another point as well. Was this land not gifted to what was then Nelson Corporation for public use? So I just wondered how it's managed to be sold off to the whoever to build a police station.
Julie, do you have anything to add to that? You might know something.
No, as far as I'm aware, that there's no reason why the council can't sell, and Liberated Property Services have been in negotiation with the police on this and have looked into all the relevant legal matters.
Really? Okay. That's me done then.
Who's next? I can't see.
We've got Councillor Mahmood.
Councillor Mahmood, you next. Asjad?
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I mean, in principle, I fully support building a new police station there. But I think I've got reservations. I mean, I've always supported it, Nelson Police Station and obviously Accrington and Burnley and Colne all merging. So, I'm in favour of that, especially coming into Pendle. Very, very welcome that. My reservation is there's lots of things within, and they mentioned within the report and the updated report that have not been resolved. And for that reason, I personally will say either we defer this until we got further information. And one of the biggest issues is this is on a floodplain. This is a floodplain site. We're still waiting for the environmental. I forgot what it was called now. It's called, yeah, from the environment agency. They commented that, you know, they need a flood risk assessment submitted, and they will object to this application and recommend that planning permission is refused in the absence of a flood risk assessment. So at this stage, I think we should wait from this flood risk assessment. Also, if I remember correctly, went back a couple of years when this issue was raised. As a council, we I think, or as an estimate committee, as a council, we said that this could be used as a commercial land as well. I think the original proposal was for a commercial land. Again, this kind of strict, very much for an office use. And we have a lot of offices that are empty in Nelson, and you know, so those could be used. But I'm just generally saying, I think that should be open either for office use and commercial use within the new within the new guidelines. If I remember correctly, also our council policies, and it was mentioned the full council that the fun fair people will be accommodated within Pendle at another site. And to my understanding, that has not happened yet. So I think that needs addressing. I've also got reservations and not pretty happy about the Stowe Park facing Nelson Cricket Club. And Nelson Cricket Club is a very famous cricket club. It has a lot of history. It's been there for 100 years at the Cedar site. And I know the discussions are still ongoing, and again, I'm not very happy with 6-story extension car park. You've got the motorway on the other side. It's going to have an impact, visual, and also the lighting from the cars and what have you. So at this stage, I personally can't support it. I mean, I'm happy to defer for all that information to be submitted before we can make a final decision. But personally, like I say, remove a deferment at this stage. Also, I think it's raised quite a few issues about safety of road, like traffic safety. But I think that will get addressed within the conditions. So I think for the time being, that's what I'd like to say.
Alex, do you want to comment first, or shall I bring the other speaker first?
I'm happy for you to bring the other speaker in, and I'll just prepare a response to that.
Right. Okay. Jane, can I ask who's next, please?
Yeah, it's Councillor Ahmed is next.
Yeah, I can see his hand now. Councillor Ahmed.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. I think having this a building for the police, a modern facility for us in Nelson would be a good thing. I won't dispute that for 1 second, because the risk is that if us here in Nelson don't want it, where else would it go? Some other town, some other area, and that would be a loss for Nelson and our community. So having a local base here is a big thing for us. However, before I go further, I've just got a couple of questions which I want to ask. First of all, in terms of the report, it mentions the use of this site, and also it's mentioned in the report and the comments made by people and officers this evening in terms of what this site is designated for. And the report states clearly that it's not been designated for any particular use. That is totally factually incorrect. This site is designated for residential. The amenities, a public open space. Mr. Emery raised a point in terms of the restrictions on the title deeds, and I know that we're being told that legal department have cleared it, but the legal documents, to my understanding, clearly state that this site was donated to the council at the time. It was donated for a particular purpose, and that purpose was for the public to enjoy, for our kids, and having an open space for people to enjoy themselves. Recreational use was the term used in previous reports and in the historical documents, but none of them comments and words are mentioned either this evening, verbally or within the report, which is rather misleading. I've just got a question. So that's my first point in terms of the designation use of this site. Secondly, I want to ask a question in terms of the consultation. The report states that the neighbouring or the closest areas have been notified. Please, may I ask who has been notified in that regard before I speak further, please, Chairman?
Sorry, Councillor Ahmed, I lost you right at the end.
So I've got two questions. I'm just disputing the report in terms of it saying and the land doesn't have any designated use. That's the first question I want to ask through you, Mr. Chairman. And secondly, in terms of the consultation, which residents should have been notified in writing, I just want to ask which residents, if any, have been notified in writing.
All right. Do you want to carry on after you get answered?
Yeah, I do, yes. Yeah, I want to carry on, yeah. But I need answers to them two questions, please.
Alex and Julie, please.
Councillor, I'm just checking now what the designation of the land is on our portal. In terms of the residents that were notified, there will have been a press and site notice for this. So irrespective of anybody notified by letter, that fully covers our duty to notify neighbours. The neighbours that have been notified will be detailed on the. There's a list of the notifications on the website in the details of the application. So they're specified in that. However, our duty to notify is fully covered by press and site notices.
Yeah, carry on.
Yeah. So what we're saying now is, so this council, Pendle Council, are no longer going to consult, or don't feel like they have to consult anybody anymore because we've stuck a notice on a lamppost or nearby. Am I reading that correct? Because if that's the case, that is totally unacceptable. I mean, I live on Milton Street. I would have thought our block would have been notified. I've not had a letter. So I want to know when these letters were sent out to residents. I know the officers are saying, yeah, the list is there, but I'm asking a question, so I need to. I'm seeking an answer, please, is to which residents have actually received or been sent a letter.
I can get for you if you give me a few minutes to do that.
Yeah. Okay, I'll carry on. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. Okay. So there's them two concerns I have before I go any further, because that's just in terms of how we are dealing with planning applications and the principle of people being notified and being given a fair opportunity to raise concerns if they have any. Don't get me wrong, having a police station or this site, this base in Nelson is good for Nelson and it's good for Pendle. But this site, from day one, the whole process was a shambles. And even the planning process, we were told at the time, the residents were told, you will have an opportunity at the planning process. This was officers and elected members using these words, saying, members of the public will have an opportunity to have their say when it comes to planning. And I don't believe the residents are being given a fair opportunity to raise their concerns. I've got other concerns in terms of the potential flooding on this site, because I think even the report says, oh, if there's a flooding, the building can't be used, or words to that effect, which sounds crazy to me. The police are going to spend taxpayers' money, millions, but we're not sure if it can be used all the time because there's a risk of flooding. So the flood risk is significant in my view, unless somebody can convince me otherwise. There's concerns around the traffic for that site. I appreciate in terms of the comments Lancashire County Council have made and what will be incorporated within the details later on. And I'm sure, obviously, it's the police, and I'm sure that will be dealt with correctly. And I think in terms of the general issue in that area, in terms of speeding vehicles, I think having police nearby will probably help in that regard itself. So that isn't too big a concern for me. But the communication mast is a concern also. I think the height that's been mentioned is 45 metres for this communication mast. And I feel having a communication mast of that height in that location is not acceptable in my view, and it shouldn't be on that site. So I'm struggling at this moment in time because of the issues I've raised and because of the concerns and the lack of information in terms of the feedback we're going to have. That there's no information on flooding, there's issues around traffic which have yet to be resolved, there's other concerns. So at this moment in time, I'm not in a position to support this application as it is. So I will be seconding Councillor Mahmood in deferring this application.
Chairman, can I come in? I don't know if you can see my hand up yet. I'm on my mobile. I apologise, Chairman, for interrupting.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
Thank you, Chairman.
Councillor Zaffarali.
Thank you, Chairman. I've listened quite patiently to the ward councillors from this area, and I've also taken quite some time in looking at the background paperwork submitted kindly by the committee section. I do want to second Councillor Iqbal in his case to approve this application. It's a welcome development in this site, which has been going on for a number of years, which colleagues across the town council kept a close eye on in trying to look out for community safety and community safety partnerships. So I want to second Councillor Iqbal, taking on point the point from Councillor Nadeem on various aspects in regards to the background recreational. But I think we have to accept that with time development or in this case a change of use of land, there may well be history around the background measure. But I feel the time now this area requires and in terms of what it will bring for the area in terms of a safety partnership, it's much needed, Chairman. So I'd like to second Councillor Iqbal on this approval.
I believe there's somebody else who wants to.
It's Councillor Cooney. Could I just say, if you're not speaking, can you make sure you're muted? There's quite a lot of background noise. So it's Councillor Cooney now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. In terms of a development like this and what it's going to bring to Nelson and the borough, it is absolutely welcome. But however, this as it stands at the moment has some real potential problems that it's going to bring with it. Now, Councillor Ahmed has spoke about the issues as Councillor Ajad Mahmood as well, and I think Nelson has got a history of making some decisions around planning that we then maybe live to regret in terms of not getting the detail right up front. So I think in principle, there's nothing wrong with the whole idea. It's the detail behind some of it. Councillor Ajad Mahmood has already mentioned the car parking, and I'm just going to focus on that because the other areas have been covered. They're talking about a 6th level multi-storey car park. That is an extraordinary big car park. That's going to be a high building. And to me, that's going to look like a complete and total eyesore. But in terms of how they've come up with that, it looks like to me that they've got some numbers wrong somewhere. So if we start off and look at, 177 staff, but they've only got a 40% responded to the survey. That's only 70 people that's responded, and that can't be nowhere near enough to start to understand about how many cars and how staff are actually going to use the car park. But then later on in the report, it says that they expect 124 parking spaces to be used at any one time. So if you take that, and then they've got a number of 75 operational vehicles, well, they're not going to be there all at the same time at one time. So if you took about half of those, and then a couple of the emergency operational cars that are going to be there, there's going to be over probably 80 spaces available on this car park at any one time. So this is the numbers are crazy in terms of how they come up with this, in terms of the parking that they needed, in my view, and I would say it's way overstated. But the car park to me is really, I think, the biggest issue, because put a 6-storey car park on there, that's just going to look absolutely horrific. And it's already been mentioned, the impact of the motorway, the impact of Nelson Cricket Club, and I can't understand why there isn't no parking at ground level built in around the development. So again, I would support, and I'm going to support tonight, the proposal to defer this, because we must get the detail of this right up front and get the whole planning of it right up front, or we'll have another race centre on our hands. And we all know the historical problems we ended up with the race centre because we didn't get that right at the very, very beginning. It's very easy for us as councils to look at this in the shop window and think how great and how fantastic it is, but you've got to get the material element of it right. So I think it needs to go away. It needs some serious looking at it. It needs serious changes, and it's come to the committee for further. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, we've got Councillor Iqbal next, Chairman.
Councillor Iqbal.
Yeah, Chairman, thanks a lot for bringing me back in. I think there's a lot of red herrings being thrown into this discussion tonight. Let me just pick up on what Councillor Cooney has said. I mean, if he wants to talk about the parking, all he needs to do is read page 5, going over to page 6 in terms of the report, and that explains to him the layout of the car parking. What the police appear to be doing is doing something for the future. There's no point in them building a 2-storey car park or 3-storey, and then in the later years coming back for an extension. But if you look at page 5, they actually give a breakdown in terms of what the car parking is to be used for. So maybe he hasn't read the report, and I would urge him to read that before he starts spouting off in terms of throwing things about parking. In terms of the flooding issue that's been raised, I mean, I clearly heard Alex right at the offset of this debate talk about the response from the Environment Agency and the flooding issue. Now, I'm no expert on flooding. Unless Councillor Ahmed's an expert on flooding, then I bow to his opinion. But Alex has relayed what the experts are telling us in terms of the flooding risk assessment, and I'm happy to go with that assessment. Councillor Ahmed has also spoken about consultation. I mean, if he's a ward councillor and he's not aware that the application was put in and he's not consulted with his residents, then I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, that's not my problem as a Nelson councillor or as leader of the council if he's abdicated his own responsibilities. The fact is, the police have been in negotiations with the council for the last 3 years, along with other councils. And the concern that I've got is that if this area committee sends a message not only to the police, but to other potential developers, and Councillor Cooney's referred to the Air Centre, I'm pretty optimistic that, the Air Centre issue will be resolved very, very soon. Again, this administration of the council is in detailed talks with hopefully somebody that will create a significant amount of jobs into Nelson. So some of us are actually fighting to get Nelson up and running despite the COVID-19 crisis. And I would urge this committee not to be taken in by some of the red herrings thrown in tonight, or as former as a former councillor on this committee used to say, a Scud missile into the debate. The fact is that what the officers are recommending, they're not saying give planning permission tonight on what's left to do. Alex has been quite clear in his updated report that if, for example, there's information that comes back that is detrimental to the application, Alex or Neil or Julie will bring the application back to committee with the updated decision or details from what they've got to say. But if we want to stay stuck in the past, Mr. Chairman, then vote for deferment. If you want to plan for this town's future, move with the application, move the recommendations I've set out, and it has been kindly supported by Councillor Zaffarelli. Let's not, dilly-dally about the situation. I mean, Councillor Ahmed says that he's not happy about a 45-metre mast. I mean, he lives directly opposite a huge banking that leads up to the M65. I'm sure that's bigger than 45 metres. So he needs to put his cards on the table. Either he's for this application or he's not. If he wants to play politics, there's other avenues to play politics, but this is not an avenue to play politics, Mr. Chairman. So I would urge colleagues not to be taken in by the deferment or the refusal at this stage, if anybody's minded to move refusal, and go along with the original recommendation to move to approval.
Thank you very much, Councillor Iqbal. Alex, before I bring you in, I know there are other councillors waiting as well, but I'd just like to say one thing. Councillor Nadeem Ahmed mentioned that this land was gifted or donated, or whatever the word you want to use, for the public use. We need to look at that as well. If we are changing the use of it, then is Pendle Council going to provide us a piece of land where other recreational facilities can be sorted, or the money that we're going to get the capital receipt, where is that going to go? Is that going to stay in Nelson? Can we use that money to buy land or create a piece of land for other use? So
Chairman, can I just help you
as well?
Chairman, before Alex speaks on that, can I answer that point? Mr. Chairman,
yes,
the issue about recreational land on there, I mean, there is no recreation. The only recreation that takes place on the land at the moment is the fun fair. There is no other recreation that takes place on there. Secondly, the point that Mr. Emery raised about the land being gifted to Nelson Corporation, this was an issue raised right at the offset, an executive meeting actually going back 4 or 5 years. Liberata and our legal services have looked into that, and there is no substance to that. So unless somebody can actually prove some documentation, it's all good and well coming to the committee and saying, well, it was gifted to the people of Nelson. I'm sure it was. But what it wasn't gifted for was recreation, because ever since I've lived in Nelson for 41 years, what recreation has there been on there? I'm not aware of any recreation.
Thank you for clarifying that. Alex, you want to come in?
Yeah, through you, Chairman. On the point of the designation of open space, it was previously designated open space, but is no longer. So it's in the most recent open space order, it isn't designated as open space currently. In terms of the flood risk, we've got the lead local flood authority have come back with no objection to it. They have advised some slight updates to the flood risk assessment to deal with drainage on the banking to the M65, but they haven't got any objection in planning terms subject to conditions. The Environment Agency haven't objected. They don't. Well, a flood risk assessment has been submitted. The Environment Agency, the additional details that they want, it relates to emergency measures in the case of flooding. So that's something that is proposed to be resolved after the permission's been delegated grant consent. What was the other issue? Oh yeah, to do with the notifications. I've just checked, and there weren't any notifications by letter to neighbours, but there will have been press and site notices, and that fully covers the council's duty to notify. And throughout the lockdown period, we were only notifying by site notice for a period, so that's why that may be the case.
Thank you, Alex.
That's okay.
Jane, can I ask?
Councillor Henderson, and then Councillor Mahmood wants to speak again after that.
Yeah. Councillor Henderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll shut up, Paul. I've been reading through, obviously, what's down here, and I've probably been here a lot longer than Councillor Iqbal has. But I remember actually the fun fair being on the opposite side of the road when I was younger, and it got moved to where it is now because of the motorway going up. So originally the fun fair wasn't where it is now. And yes, I do agree with Councillor Cooney, we should get the details right to start with, because we don't want everything going over to Blackburn. Blackburn's got enough of everything, what with the hospital and everything. They've got all that. Why should they have the police station as well? Why can't we have something for a change? But could I just ask Alex a question? We're going on about flooding and what have you, but in the report there is ecology, which is on page 6. Well, it's partly on page 9 and part of page 16 about the lighting and the bats that are within the park. Obviously, they can only do bat surveys at certain times of the year, and it does say that there are bats. Are we going to put it forward to the place that they do have friendly light system conditions put up, not only for the bats but for the residents in the area, because obviously they don't want glowing light shining through their properties in the middle of the night. But will this definitely be a condition of it going through?
Through you, Chair, that is recommended as condition 16. So that is already recommended as one of the conditions to control the light.
Thank you. With that, I think I'd like to support Councillor Iqbal's proposal as well. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Councillor Mahmood.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just two questions to Alex. There's a council resolution a couple of years ago that said that the fairground people will be reallocated to another space within Pendle. How is that being addressed within this report and this planning application? And also, if I remember correctly, I think, again, going back a few years, I think the executive at the time made a resolution that it was going to be for like commercial use. So again, how is this report addressing that, and this new planning application addressing those two issues?
Through you, Chair, as the site isn't designated for any specific use, that isn't something that's material to the determination of this application. So we wouldn't be able to impose any restrictions in that regard.
But this is a council resolution, as in this is a council policy being approved at the full council.
Chair, is that something I could come in on?
Yeah, that's fine. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I think we just have to make sure that we're not sort of mixing up two things here. Obviously, this is a discussion about the planning application and the merits of that. The actual decision around the land disposal and the terms of that is a separate discussion and negotiation with the council. So I think we just need to make sure that we're not trying to confuse the two, and that at the moment we're just actually deciding on the merits of the planning application. Excuse me.
Right, thank you for that. Councillor Esther.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't answer my questions, but like I said, the council policy is very clear. There's a resolution, I think it was from, I think it was Tony Greaves at the time, I think, very clearly said the fairground people should be relocated and the site will not be develop until that's resolved. And again, at the executive, I think we're quite clear, again, specifically for commercial use. Again, it's been approved by the council, so it's council policy.
Councillor Iqbal, we're fortunate to have you here at this meeting, as a leader here. But I want to know, where is the money going to go? We're selling land from Nelson, and we want, obviously, a replacement. We want something for the children, for the future.
Chairman,
as a leader,
Chairman, can I just answer that point? I mean, we just in terms of what Ashad's saying, the council resolution wasn't to stop anything until the funfair people were found elsewhere. If he wants me to locate the minutes of that council meeting, and I remember correctly because I spoke on it, is that we would make every endeavour to find the funfair people an alternative provision within Pendle, and we have been trying over the last 2-3 years to find them alternative provision. But the issue has been in Nelson, there is no other site. We've tried various sites and they just don't work. We were looking in Corn, but the issue, talking to Corn colleagues, was that they don't want the funfair in their backyard for that matter. So the council, and that's not me, the council officers have been trying over a number of years. In terms of your point, Chairman, I as a Nelson councillor would love any money that's raised in Nelson to be used in Nelson, but you've been on the council long enough to know that if that happens, then the council may as well just not bother. There's other areas where, for example, we've sold land in Corn for £1 million, land in West Craven for millions, land in Nelson for millions, land in Brarefield for any money that's raised from sales go into the central pot, and then you, like any other councillor, along with myself as Nelson councillors, can argue at the relevant committees to use some of that money to be spent in Nelson. Now, just let me give you one example, then I'll shut up for the time being. For example, you're involved in the Nelson Town Deal thing. Potentially, Nelson could get £50 million. Well, if I was a Corn councillor or a Barnoldswick councillor, I'd say, well, why should Nelson get 50 million quid? Why don't we have a share of that money? But that's designated for Nelson, hopefully, and hopefully that will come to fruition as well. I'd love to spend as much money as possible in Nelson, speaking as a Nelson councillor, but as leader of the council, I have to look after the whole council, as would any other leader, Mr. Chairman. So the sale of this land, if we want to set that precedent, it's not up to this area committee. It's a council decision, but it's a very dangerous situation to go down, with respect.
Anybody else?
Chairman, you've got Councillor Nadeem Ahmed, Nicholas Emery, and then Julie Henderson.
Councillor Nadeem Ahmed, please.
Yeah, I'm going back to the point about the consultation again. If this council is going down this road where residents don't have to be notified in writing, and if council members speak on certain items, and the leader of the council sitting there and just being totally provocative in terms of the language she uses deliberately, I must admit, and yet is accusing others of playing politics, it's a shambles.
Can I raise a point of information?
No, Councillor Iqbal has interrupted this meeting. He's spoken about 5 times.
I have a right to raise a point of information.
Let me finish. You can speak for the 10th time.
No, I just want to clarify. If Councillor Ahmed feels that I've used provocative language, I apologise to him, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, language such as using red herrings, playing politics. That's what Councillor Iqbal said. We're not playing politics. Just because somebody doesn't agree with another council doesn't mean you're playing politics. I happen to have a different view. May I remind Councillor Iqbal, it was his deputy, Councillor Ashad Mahmood, who's moved deferment, not myself. So I think he needs to speak to his own group before he starts accusing others of speaking on such matters. Just going on about in terms of the points which are raised in terms of specifically about the planning matters, there's too many uncertainties. Councillor Cooney is quite correct. There's issues around flooding, there's issues around parking, there's issues around highways, and I feel all them issues need to be resolved before we can make a decision on this planning application. And it's not about us dilly-dallying or delaying it. It's just that I, like some other members, feel we want all the information before us, so we fully informed as to what is happening. Because let's not forget, this site is the only real open space we have left in Whitefield. And some people will even argue, is it in Whitefield? It is. As far as I'm concerned, it's part of Whitefield. It's the only real open space we have where there could be some potential development in the future. Like I said at the outset, I'm not against the idea in principle of having the police having a base there, because, as Julie mentioned, because if we don't have it, and Councillor Iqbal is quite correct as leader of the council, that the danger is if we don't want it, they'll say, well, forget it, we'll go elsewhere. I totally accept that point of view. But what I'm saying is how we get to that stage has to be done in the correct manner. We haven't, I don't believe, followed the correct procedures in terms of consulting residents. Yes, I'm a ward councillor, but what do I want if Councillor Iqbal wants me during COVID to go and knock on doors? Do you know what I mean? What do people want as ward councillors to do? And no, in normal situation, yes, I probably would have gone and knocked on doors and done petitions, etc., if that's how the public felt. But at this moment in time, we can't do that. And I feel such an important, major application is going to affect residents forever, and yet the council haven't even bothered sending letters out to the nearest, not just in Whitefield, but on the other side in Barrowford, the residents which are directly affected. And I think that should have happened. And still, there is a chance for the council to go back and consult residents so they can have their say.
Move for progress.
Thank you. Who's next? Sorry, Jane. Mr. Emery?
Yeah,
Yes.
it's only a small point. I'm just replying to Councillor Iqbal to put on record the previous recreational uses. That used to be the ground for Nelson Football Club, and there used to be a big football stadium there. Nelson Football Club, if I remember rightly, not being a sporting person, but they were the first British team to beat Real Madrid in the 20s, I believe, from that stadium. Another use was it used to be the annual showground for Nelson Show, which was a major agricultural show when I was a child. And it's also been a stock car stadium, which they used to bring stock cars from all over the north of England. So I just wanted to make that point. I'm not in dispute with the use. I don't suppose it'll be a bad thing to have the police station there, providing it is a police station and not just an office block. So yes, but I just want to put on record that those were previous recreational uses. Thank you.
Councillor Asjad, you're the last speaker on this. Let's move to progress.
Mr. Chairman, I'm a hand up.
Sorry, is there anybody else who wants to speak?
Yeah, me, Mr. Chairman, I have my hand up.
I think it's Tommy.
Sorry.
I think Tommy
Is it-
Cooney.
Well,
Councillor Cooney, please. Go
Oh,
ahead
thank
then.
you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just wanted to come back just to a couple of brief points. I don't really understand the leader's sort of desire to railroad this through. And I agree with Councillor Arnott's comments around the politics side of it. There is no politics side of it. His own party has got some serious issues with this as well. And thank God that look at the detail, that's where we differ, because when you look at the numbers, I'm saying the numbers don't make any sense. So unless he's going to tell me that when all of those numbers are put together, there's about 37 parking spaces left, and he's going to tell me vehicles, police vehicles on that car park at any one time, then we've got a bigger problem, because all the criminals in Nelson and around the borough are going to be having the car park is all wrong. Something is not right with that. But I'm encouraged tonight by the comments and the desire from colleagues to really look at this in good detail and to get it right. Because if we don't, then it will be a problem. and we will land the residents in that area with a problem forever, evermore. There is no councillor, I don't think, here tonight against the principle of this. They just want to get it right, and I think there are some details here that really, really need to be looked at, and we should learn from the past. It's okay, Councillor Iqbal saying that he's on the verge of signing a major new deal with the A Centre, but that A Centre up to now has cost this council an awful lot of money to this point. Okay, it might look rosy in the future, but it needs to be a very, very rosy deal to recover what it's already burnt out of this purse of this council. So, again, it needs to be deferred tonight. It needs to go away from some more serious thinking for a different outlook on these issues. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you for that, Councillor Cooney. Asjad, I believe you had your hand up. Am I right to say that? No?
Right. It was Councillor Henderson. Councillor Henderson. The last one.
Yeah. Can I just say that really we should be looking at the planning application as it is. And we have had councillors this evening going on about the fun fair and making sure that that's put somewhere before we build on it. As we are today, it's going to be a long time before that fun fair ever comes back. I mean, we're social distancing now. I mean, I cannot see a fun fair coming back, well, not even next year. So if we're having to wait till a fun fair is sorted out, it's a poor do that we can't get this application looked at, sorted out one way or the other, whether we're having to defer it till we get everything right, as some councillors want, or we put it through as Councillor Iqbal has proposed. But can we just stop saying, can we sort the fun fair out first? Because there ain't going to be a fun fair, I can assure you. If the situation carries on as it is, we're not going to have recreation facilities such as fun fairs in the future. So we need to get that land sorted out now and get something on it that's right.
Right. Thank you for that, Councillor Henson. I honestly have reservations, but what do? We want the police station here. Information should have been gathered, provided to us before, it should have been brought to us, but I can't understand the logic. They had such a long time to prepare everything, and there is no reason, why they can't provide us the information in the next couple of weeks or so. So I would prefer to defer it, but let's see how it goes. All those in favour of Councillor Asjad's proposal to defer it to next month, or until all the information is gathered and provided to us.
Chairman, should we do a named vote? I'll do a vote properly so that we know which way people are voting.
Yes, please, Jane.
Okay. So if we take the deferral first, if you're in favour of the deferral, please say for, and if you're against, please say against. Councillor Adam. Councillor Adam.
Sorry about that. Against.
Against. Councillor Ahmed.
For.
Councillor Ali.
Against.
Councillor Amma.
Against.
Councillor Ansar.
Against.
Councillor Aslam.
For.
Councillor Cooney.
For.
Councillor Henderson.
Against.
Councillor Iqbal.
Against.
Councillor Mahmood. Councillor McGowan.
For.
Councillor Saqib.
For.
Councillor Tennant.
Against.
Councillor Wicks.
Against.
Thank you.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
That's 6 for and 8 against. So the deferral is lost.
So deferral is lost.
Yeah.
Now, all those in favour of Councillor Iqbal's proposal to approve this as they say, delegate grant consent to planning manager. All those in favour of that, please. Jane?
Okay, if you're in favour of the proposal on the sheet, it's 4, and if you're against, please say against. Councillor Adam.
For.
Councillor Ahmed.
Against.
Councillor Ali.
For.
Councillor Amma.
For.
Councillor Ansar.
For.
Councillor Aslam.
Against.
Councillor Cooney.
Against.
Councillor Henderson.
For.
Councillor Iqbal.
For what?
Councillor Mahmood.
Against.
Councillor McGowan.
Against.
Councillor Sakib.
For.
Councillor Tennant.
For.
Councillor Wicks.
For.
Okay, that's 9 for and 5 against, so that's carried.
That is carried. Okay. Thank you for that, councillors. Second application is for erection of dormers to front and rear roof slopes at 1666 Leeds Road, Nelson. Can I ask Councillor Iqbal to come in first as he's the ward councillor?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I think this will be slightly less contentious. I mean, this is the first dormer on the block. There is already, if you look at the next block up and the one opposite there is already dormers there. This is opposite the tall buildings. And I understand that because this is the first one, there's issues according to the policy, but and our planning officers love us to disagree on dormers, and Alex has got a smile on his face already. So I'm going to move that we approve the application, Mr. Chairman, and subject to the standard materials being used.
I'll second that from the chair. Anybody else wants to speak?
We've got Alex.
Yes, Chairman. The only thing I would suggest is for the application to be delegate grant consent subject to amended plans for a pitched roof dormer to the front rather than a flat roof, which should be able to be accommodated.
Anybody else wants to come in?
You've got Councillor Cooney.
Councillor Cooney, please.
Oh, sorry, Jane, my hand's been up from before. Apologies.
All right, okay. Mr. Emery.
Mr. Emery.
Sorry, I'd left my hand up from before.
Okay.
That's okay.
Councillor Ahmed, then I think.
Councillor Ahmed.
Yeah, happy to second this, Chairman. Just wondering what Councillor Iqbal's views on in terms of what planning officers have said in terms of the amended plans. Is he okay with that?
Yeah, I think historically we tend to look for a pitch roof anyway. So
okay,
I assume if the chairman's okay with that as well, then I'm happy to take on board what Alex has said.
That's fine. Okay, thanks.
I'm just looking at the weather condition in these days. Weather, I can't say anything. I'm happy either way, to be honest with you. I'm not 100% sure how big the house is, and so I really can't comment. Whichever way Councillor Iqbal wants to go, I'm happy to go along with that.
Chairman, I think Alex has said that the pitch, if there's a pitch and it mirrors what the other pitches are in the area, that the roof space can still be accommodated. So I'm happy that we delegate grant consent to the planning manager in consultation with yourself as chair.
Right, okay, I'm fine with that. All those in favour of Councillor Iqbal's proposal to approve this application and grant consent basically to the planning manager with pitched roof. It might be very small pitched roof, as I think Iqbal is referring to the block opposite to the zone in it. So all those in favor of the proposal? Jane?
Yeah, I'd phrase it. Anybody against? If anybody's got anything contrary to say, if not, then go with the approval. Okay.
Anyone? Right, that is approved. Thank you, everyone. Next item on the agenda is national planning reform. Can I ask Alex to come in and let us know briefly what this is, please?
Very briefly, there have been a number of recent changes to the planning system, most notably changes to the permitted development rights for householders to enable them to extend upwards. But that is only available to properties built after 1948. So that doesn't apply to most properties within Nelson. And there have been changes to the use classes order, which has changed a number of uses such as retail uses and office uses and brought them under one use class. So that will allow a lot of businesses to operate as retail users, such as offices. There's also a number of changes to proposed changes to the calculation for the 5-year supply of housing, which is dealt with in detail in the report.
Happily remove the report.
Chairman, you've got Councillor Iqbal who was wanting to speak.
Chairman, are you there?
I think you're muted, Chairman.
Sorry, Councillor Iqbal.
Yeah, Chairman, Ashad's moved that we agree with the recommendations. I'm happy to second that. I mean, when the government made the announcement about allowing people to build upwards, I know you had many inquiries as well from residents, but as Alex has said, the devil's in the detail here. There's not many properties built after 1948 in Nelson, so they will fall foul of what the announcement was, but the council has responded to the consultation, and the appendix is there at the back, which I think is a fair reflection done by our officers. So I'll second what has been moved.
Councillor Nadeem Ahmed, do you want to have any say in it, or you are a leader of the conservative groups? So we are blessed with 2 leaders. So do you want to say anything, or are you happy with that?
No, just happy with the comments as per the report. Fine. Yeah, thank you.
Right. Okay, thank you for that. Item 8, enforcement. This is my report.
This will be noted.
Everyone happy with that? Yeah. Thank you for that, Iqbal. Item 9, capital program 2020-21. Sorry, Iqbal.
Yeah, Chairman, you'll be pleased to know that we've still got £1 to spend, and I think we'll leave that till later on in the year, that who's the lucky one that gets the extra £1 to spend. So at this stage, it's just noting the report.
Noted. Thank you for that. I suppose everyone is happy with that course of action. Item 10, LCC traffic liaison meeting.
Chairman, noting. Sorry, go on.
Anybody want to comment? Did I hear someone? Noted. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Can I comment on that, Councillor Ali?
Yeah, Councillor Ali, please.
Yeah, on this one, I appreciate it's for noting. There have been I have been approached by residents now for a number of years in relation to Chapel House Road in Nelson, and I have been in liaison with Councillor Iqbal, Scott Worley, and County Councillor Azhar Ali in relation to the prospect of bringing some speed calming measures from the junction of Railway Street all the way to the top of Halifax, well, to the junction of Halifax Road. So the whole of Chapel House Road is basically in question here. The issues is around speeding. The narrowness of the road means that vehicles flying down from the top or going upwards are either ending up scratching vehicles down either side. I appreciate this item, like I said, is for noting, but I think it's something that as an area committee I'd like us to apply some pressure and maybe pass on a message or resolve whatever is necessary for Scott to attend the next meeting of the traffic liaison meeting and raise awareness of this issue, because I would keenly look to ask colleagues for support in such measures being brought on Chapel House Road.
Right, thank you for that. I'm not sure who has input to this. Councillor Iqbal, I believe you being the county councillor, I'm looking at you. Jen, yeah, who's next? I believe. Is it yourself, Councillor Iqbal?
I didn't have my hand up, but seeing that you asked me the question, Chairman, I mean, if Councillor Ali asked Scott to put it on the agenda, that can be put on the agenda. And then, even though it's not my county division, I'm happy to support what Councillor Zafar Ali has said, as I think everybody in the room will be.
There's someone else now. Somebody else.
Chairman, you've got Julie wants to speak, and then Councillor George Adam.
Okay, Councillor Julie Henson, please.
No, sorry,
no,
Julie Whittaker.
The other Julie. The other Julie. Sorry. Yeah. Just to say,
yeah.
It does appear for the minutes as though County Council through Chris Nolan are trying to push forward Chapel House Road. Look at item 2 in these minutes here, trying to move this forward separately over and above other. So I'm losing my voice today. Over and above other schemes. So hopefully we can make some sort of speedier progress on that.
That's good to hear. Councillor George Adam. Councillor George Adam, do you want to come in?
Sorry, Chairman, I was talking to myself. Ask Julie, has the work been done on the narrowing parts on Chapel House Road between Larch Street and Brunswick Street?
Through your chair, not aware of it has as yet. I can look into that.
See, from what I can gather, what Azhar Ali was on about was getting those narrowing things taken out and having some flat raised sections there so that traffic can come up and down. It slows them down when they come to the raised sections. Not the whole of Chapel House Road, because that's the first time I've heard of that. I'm sure Councillor Richardson hasn't heard about it. I'm sure that Councillor Iqbal and Councillor Ali would have told us, County Councillor Ali would have told us if that's what we were thinking about the whole of Chapel House Road, because half of it is in Wolverton Ward.
It sounds like the best thing is if I ask Scott Worley just to provide an update exactly on what he's proposed and likely timescales for committee members. Would that be helpful?
Yeah. Yeah, that's fine, it's that. And we obviously note the minutes of the meeting. Yeah, that's fine. Item 11, proposed introduction of residents only parking scheme on Lonsdale Street, Nelson. Can I ask Councillor Amr, Sheila, or Yvonne Tennant to have a say, or what do they want to do, or do they want to have any input to this?
Yes, Chairman. Councillor Amr here.
Councillor, yeah.
Yeah, Chairman, you know, this item 11 and item 12, Holly Street and Lonsdale Street, can we go for deferment for next month? Because some of the residents did not receive the survey, and I delivered the survey on Thursday to the residents in Torquay Sandra, and I've done delivered on Thursday. So can we do for deferment for next month, please?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to
Anybody?
support that. I mean, looking at the figures, it says no overall majority, but if this was a vote, as in a political vote, then you wouldn't discount the people who hadn't voted, you discount who got the most votes. So yeah, I'd go for a deferment if people haven't been receiving them.
County Councillor Iqbal, can you enlighten us with this, if this is okay? Or
well, it's up to you as an area. Well, it's up to us. Sorry, as an area committee. I mean, if Councillor Amr and Tennant are saying that the residents haven't had the letters, and whilst being adequately protected, they've posted them to give people a chance to return them, Chairman. I would support deferment.
anybody else wants to have a say, or can we have a vote? All those in favour of deferring this till next month? I suppose there's nobody against, so Jane, can we take that as agreed course of action to defer it in next month?
Yes, we can. I think the proposal was that this item and the following item both be deferred. If that's what everybody's in agreement with, then that's fine.
Yeah, thank you for that. Item 13, reopening of town centres. Who wants to take lead on this? Councillor Emery, Councillor Iqbal, Councillor Zafar Ali, any of you guys?
Chairman, if I can just start. I mean, first of all, can I thank yourself and those other councillors who have been involved in terms of the little group that was set up to work with officers. I think your work has proved quite vital, and some of the suggestions that have come forward are very good suggestions, and it's pleasing to see that some businesses across the town centre are looking to work with us as an area committee. I mean, you've given it, this is an update in terms of what's happening in terms of signage. I mean, I've verbally spoken to some of the businesses and they seem to be on board in terms of what you suggested. So happy that we note their reports and put our thanks forward both to the officers, businesses and those councillors that were involved in the little group.
Just 1 second, please. I've lost my sheet of the report. It mentions about where the hand sanitizers are going to be going, and so if you guys read the report, so if, I suppose you're happy with it, can we have a vote then?
Hey, can I just come in? Sorry to keep out behind.
Sorry, I can't see. Yes, please.
I've got a slight issue with the logo. The Nelson Cares logo on the long banner is completely different to the Nelson Cares logo as a standalone thing. I did raise this when the emails were going backwards and forwards, so they're not consistent with each other. Also on the standalone logo, I don't know, the colour doesn't work. I guess it's supposed to look like hands, but it looks like palm leaves. So I think it sort of gives the wrong message. It would be better if it was blue like on the other one, because then it looks like gloved hands. But this, it looks like a tree with the shuttle growing out of the middle of it. And I think all it needs is that change of colour.
I think we all support the blue colour today, Yvonne.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was muted. Is there anyone, Jen, who need to speak or want to speak?
No. Can I just check that everybody's happy with the suggestions that are being put forward in the report, because then they can be actioned.
Yeah, happy with those, Chairman.
Right.
There was one thing, if I may say so, everyone. I proposed to whoever sent us email that Nelson Town Centre, the Town Council logo be going up on the leaflets and on the banners also. So whether that will be done or not. Councillor Iqbal, I think it's just a good.
Sorry, I'm just nodding. I'm just nodding my head in agreement with you, Chairman.
Right. So Jane, if you can just put that down and we send email to them to add that to the logo as well, please.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you for that. Item 14, planting of trees on council-owned land. Who wants to take lead on this, please? I'm not expert on this. I see two hands raised. Councillor
Asjad, yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'll happily move the report. I think one of the best ways to tackle climate change is with planting lots of trees. I suggested this idea back in around 2009, 2010, while we were on the climate group then. So yeah, I'm in favour of that, and I'll move the report.
Councillor George Adam.
Thank you, Chairman. Are we going to, as councillors, including the town councillors, going to suggest sites for these trees?
That would be really a good idea. Obviously, each councillor or a set of councillors in each ward, they know better where the trees can be planted. That would definitely be a good idea. Councillor Iqbal, did I see your hand going up?
No, I want to carry on. I haven't finished yet, Chairman.
Sorry.
Can I just help George, and then George can carry on, George, if that's okay. I mean, the intention is that ward councillors will be consulted.
Right. Okay. Okay, that's fine.
Okay, thank you, George. So we just note the report, yeah? Everyone happy with that? So
I think, did I not see Neil's hand up?
Mr. Chairman, there's hands up.
Yeah, there's hands up, man's up.
Sorry, Neil, I honestly couldn't see your hand up, so please go ahead.
No problem. Thank you for bringing me in, Mr. Chairman. Since the report came out, I have consulted residents in regards to the overall plan, especially Ringstone Crescent. Although we all know that trees are the lungs of the world, residents do have some concerns on Ringstone Crescent. I mean, we're all familiar with Ringstone Crescent, that it's a very large site, 860 feet by 430 feet from top to across. Now, in regards to these trees, is there any thoughts on what variety of trees going to be planted? Because I mean, an oak compared to a spruce is, there's a big difference in size, and how many is going to be planted on this area. That's a question that residents are interested in. The other ones is basically if other sites can be spotted within Marsden and Southfield and so on and so forth, can we put them forward maybe to basically thin out the planting on the Ringstone Crescent side of things. Residents on Walton Lane and Hallam Road, they're not too bothered because they're very close to the park itself, but they do not want it, the tree planting too close to the highway, the pavement, because obviously the roots lift it up over in time. And is there any chance of the Ringstone being removed for the time being, pending a consultation with the residents? And when I say a consultation, I don't mean an online consultation, I mean actual letters through the letterbox, because there's a lot of elderly residents on Ringstone Crescent that basically are not on the internet. And as we all know from previous, not everybody gets to know about a consultation. I'm happy at that point.
I'm quite happy with that course of action, Neil. Never mind anybody else. That's definitely a good idea. Jane, is there anybody else?
Yeah, Councillor Cooney.
Councillor Cooney, please.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, you know, on the basis of it, you know, this strategy, there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. In terms of the tree planting around the borough, the more of that we can do, the absolute better. However, you know, when we look at sites across the borough in all areas, you know, some of them are absolutely obvious. Yeah, go straight ahead, you know, as quickly as we can, plant trees in those areas. It's the right thing to do. But then I think probably we will come across some sites that are maybe a little bit more sensitive to the planting of trees and the potential impact on residents. And I think Ringstone Crescent falls into this category. It's clearly, Councillor McGowan has just stated, a big open space, green space. It's very, very close proximity to the residents' properties up there. It's a highly elevated site as well. Some of the properties around Ringstone Crescent do have the luxury of some fantastic views out over Pendle. So clearly there is some concerns from residents in terms of, you know, what would the tree planting scheme look like? What sort of trees would it be in the future? Would it impact the views that certain properties have up there? And secondly, you know, a lot of the residents up there do currently use the green space for, particularly during the summer months, for the children to go out and play sports and football. They walk the dogs on there, etc. So again, you know, as ward councillors, you know, we're not against this proposal, but what we ultimately would really like, and this is the feedback from the residents, and I think, I'll be honest, this committee has got a good record of listening to the residents. They want consultation on this. They want real involvement in this. They want to understand what this looks like. You know, they don't want a lorry turning up one day with a load of trees and planting a load of trees on Ringstone Crescent. So I think, yeah, we're not asking for Ringstone Crescent to be taken out of the plan, but we're asking for residents to be consulted and fully involved in the scheme. And that is the design of the scheme, how the scheme is implemented, what it looks like, the area, the location of the trees on that green space. And I think, you know, something can be done. But I'm pleading with the committee to listen to what the residents are saying up there and work with them. They will work with the council to come up with a plan. I'm absolutely certain of that, but they do need to be listened to. So I'm just hoping that the committee will take that on board.
Tenant.
Councillor George Adam first, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. When I first put my hand up to speak on this issue, I was told to just note it for now because there will be debate on the thing with the councillors at a later date. Now, we've just had two councillors going on at length, both saying the same thing, I must say, and I could have gone on at length about tree planting. I could have spent another half an hour about tree planting because I know quite a lot about it, as we've done a lot of it in Wolverden. and I can tell you the pitfalls of it. That's even with consultation. So, I mean, I was just a bit annoyed when it was allowed to go on like that.
Councillor Iqbal.
Yeah, thanks, Chairman. I mean, this went to the last policy committee meeting and we agreed to send it to area committees for their comments. So when both councillors Neil McGowan and Tommy Cooney, and Tommy I think is on policy and resources, I think these comments will be fed back to the policy and resources committee meeting. And what Councillor George Adam has said, and I agree with George, he's a wealth of knowledge in terms of tree planting because he's been at it for over 20 years in terms of his own ward. So when I said that, when I gave the commitment that ward councillors would be involved, that's my intention to honour that commitment at the next policy meeting when the area committee comments are fed back. But in terms of specifically the comments about Ringstone Crescent, Neil and Tommy can rest assured the residents that we will work in partnership with them, not just there, but across the patch. The reason that I said ward councillors will take a lead is because Lee's a one-man show in terms of our tree issues. And I think to stretch him across the whole of Pendle would be a big ask on him. But this will be debated fully at the next Policy and Resources Committee meeting, where comments from other area committees will come back. Taking on board what colleagues have said here, hopefully we'll achieve an outcome that's satisfactory to most people. But absolutely, George, ward councillors will be at the heart of this.
Jane, who's next, please?
Councillor Tennant, and then Councillor Cooney wants to come back in.
Councillor Tennant.
Yeah, I just want to say, looking at this, and the original suggestions for this came through the Climate Emergency Working Group. It was always decided that the ward councillors would have the say. I mean, I must admit, I got a bit of a shock when I saw Ringstone Crescent on there because I thought people aren't going to want to lose the view from up there. I can think of other areas that would probably actually be better, but haven't shown up on there. However, it's not a case of going, right, we're going to plonk the trees on Ringstone Crescent and that's it. It's always been up for discussion, so there's no need to question it, really. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tennant. Councillor Cooney, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for letting me back in. Yeah, I want to sort of thank Councillor Iqbal for his assurances that one, the residents will be fully consulted before anything happens with these schemes, and secondly, you know, involving the councillors as well. However, the councillors to me are seconding this. It's what the residents want, and that's what we need to listen to. He's quite right. He did come to Policy and Resources, and myself and Councillor McGowan, we went away and we have consulted, we have spoken to a lot of residents up there, and the feedback is unanimous. They're not saying no. They just want to be involved, they just want to be consulted and be part of the decision. So I'm really, really pleased that Councillor Iqbal has made that commitment that the residents will be fully included in any scheme and listened to in terms of what happens on Ringstone Crescent. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Thank you very much, everyone. We'll make a progress. So we'll note, obviously, the report, and as Councillor Iqbal suggested, the board councillors will be consulted and dealt with. Moving on to item 15, tackling contamination in recycling bins. I'm not sure who's expert at this. Anybody raised?
Chairman, I'm no expert on tackling recontamination, but this again went to the policy committee at the last meeting, and it's simply, I think, for your noting, but if there's any specific comments, I mean, Council intends to do an education scheme, and Councillor Ahmed is aware of that because for COVID-19, we're not really going to focus enforcement at this stage. So it's mainly to use the carrot approach still, but at some point in the future, once we get back to normality, then the council may consider other avenues. So at this stage, happy to listen to if anybody's got any specific comments, but otherwise move it for noting.
Somebody else has raised his or her hand.
It's Councillor Cooney. Yeah, Councillor Cooney and Councillor Ahmed.
Councillor Cooney, please.
Mine should have come down. Apologies.
Okay.
Okay. Councillor Ahmed.
Yeah, thank you. Just happy to note the report at this stage. I mean, in terms of the discussion we also had at Policy and Resources Committee, I think it's important. There are some people out there still, unfortunately, not really understanding how they're supposed to be recycling correctly. And I think within people, whether it's a language barrier or they're just not understanding exactly what they're supposed to be doing, I think there are people out there still need some help. And I think the correct approach at this stage is just to educate people as much as we can and try and get our figures up. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. We note the report. Item 16, environmental blind. As you can see, there's nothing on this list. I'm just not sure about actually the definition they're saying. So if it's a public building, we can't actually bring it to the committee under environmental blind. Councillor Iqbal, Councillor Nadeem Ahmed,
This is
or maybe
Julie's,
yourself, Julie.
This is Julie's speciality.
I think, Chair, basically, if there's any concerns of any building, whether it's public or private, if you'd like to raise it, and then we can look at taking it to the appropriate team to progress, whether it's environmental blight or whether it's something else. I mean, I think we're just happy for you to raise any particular concerns, and we'll look into them.
Yeah, he mentions about unregistered land. If it's registered, we can't do anything about it. That's the only issue I had. Okay, fair enough. Move on to item 17. I see time is 8:30. So item 17.
Chairman.
Bank building. Yeah.
Chairman, Councillor McGowan's got his hand up.
Sorry, Councillor McGowan, I didn't see your hand going up. Yes.
No problem. I'm getting used to it. Yeah, I'm just wondering, there's a couple of months ago, I brought up the Southfield Lane layback, and I was just wondering if there was any update on that. Not unless you've sent me an update and I've missed it in my emails. I wonder if you can give me an update on that, Julie, please.
Yeah, through you, Chair. I thought something had come back to a previous meeting, but Tricia Wilson has been talking with County Council. It is their lay-by, and we've raised the concerns with them. We'd arranged to get the site tidied up, and then the county said that they were going to keep an eye on it to just check if there was any further problems. So if you are having any ongoing problems, then either if you want to let myself or Tricia Wilson know, we can follow it up again with the county.
Excellent. Yeah, there has been some more problems. Like I say, I'll follow that up maybe tomorrow. Thank you very much. Cheers.
Is there anybody else, Jane?
No.
No. Right. Item 17, outstanding items, Springbank buildings, Every Street, Nelson.
Chair, I think that's being discussed later on anyway. Yeah.
Councillor Iqbal? Yeah.
No, it's all right.
Okay, thank you. Item 18, exclusion of public and press.
At this point, Chairman, you need to agree that we exclude public and press, and we will end the live streaming if everybody's in agreement before we deal with the next item.
Yeah, that's fine.